All right, 3, 4, 5. And that was completely awkward if y'all were actually silent. All right, if you will, make sure your warm-up is still out. Those of you who put your binder away thinking you were done for the day, good try and get it out. Have your warm-up out in front of you. You should have worked on this already, so this video should only be playing if you've already completed your warm-up, which most of you should have. And if they have not, please pause the video to make sure they do it on their own. Now, that being said, did you notice that there were 3 questions? Did you catch it? Hopefully. If you didn't, too late. Let's go ahead and move on. If we look at number 1, the first thing you should know is it's been a while since we've seen this question, since chapter 2 almost. Hopefully you remember how to do it. If you do not, you're supposed to do -8 stow x. So you hit -8 stow x, and then you type in the function that's given without the f of x equals. So you do 3/4 parentheses x. Do you remember how to get an exponent? There's a couple of ways. If the exponent is 2, you can just hit the x squared button, or you can hit raise to the power of the caret button and hit 2. But you have to remember to hit the right arrow. So if you didn't hit the right arrow, you would have gotten it wrong. As long as it looks exactly like what's on your paper, you hit enter and it gives you an answer of 45. All right, if you look at number 2, so be prepared. This is what you should see on the test coming up on Thursday, or how it should be worded. Of course, this is pretty simple, but this is what we did all last week. So the tricky part about this one, if you didn't catch it, is it doesn't look quite like the A parentheses B x minus c plus d. Like, it doesn't have the parentheses in it. That's because the +4, if there's no parentheses involved, you have to assume that the +4 is the d value. So if you thought it was the c value, you fell for the trick, but it would only be the c value if the c was in parentheses. Well, since the 4 is not in parentheses, we have to assume it's the plus d. Well, what does plus d from last week mean? Those of you who slept over the weekend probably already forgot, but it is going to be a pop, not so pop quiz on tomorrow or Wednesday, so make sure you're ready for it. But anyway, so plus d means actually you're going to go up 4. So the only one that says vertically translated up 4 would be C. Who's 2 for 2 so far? Who's lying? All right, now number 3, if you didn't even notice number 3, it is there because it's not, there's not 2 questions today, there are 3. It says the total cost of ordering choir t-shirts varies directly. So that is part of this next chapter as well, with the number of t-shirts ordered. Riverdale High School ordered 22 t-shirts for a total of $495. So this one has 2 parts. The first part we have to figure out is the equation part. That just means I do my constant of variation, which we've talked about here and there. If it says the t-shirts varies directly with the number of shirts, we assume that t-shirts is y and number of t-shirts is x. And since constant of variation is y over x, you're supposed to do, cost of t-shirts. I said that wrong. Cost of t-shirts is your y. So that means the $495 should have been your numerator and 22 is your denominator. So for this first part of the question, they just want you to divide it out. So 495 divided by 22, or technically you're supposed to type it in as a fraction. And it's 45/2, but notice 45/2 is not an answer choice because it wants you to change it to a decimal. So it's actually 22.5. I know you might have gotten stumped on that one, so hate that I'm not there to explain it that well, but hopefully that's pretty simple. Then it wants to know what it would be. Oh, this one. It says, if Glendale High School spent $697.50, how many t-shirts would they order? So this is where I set up my proportion and I cross multiply. So 697.50 is dollar amount, which means it should go next to the 495. And then I cross multiply. So you multiply 697.50 times 22 and then divide by 495. So it equals 31. And that should be your 2 blanks. Anybody 4 for 4 there? Doubtful. Just kidding. Hopefully. All right, you can put your warm-up away in your binder. Do not close your binder, people. It's like any other day, just as if I was there, but I'm not. Or am I? I guess you'll never know. Okay, while you're getting situated, we should be silent, people, listening. Okay, with your eyes too. All right, I want to point out, so we are going to have our pop, not so pop quiz on the transformation rules like we did on Friday, but Friday was extra credit. It's going to look just like that. But I went ahead and made a linear transformation booklet so you can see it on Google Classroom if you want to practice. So if you're familiar with Booklet, it's pretty simple, but you can work through some questions, and it's going to be questions like multiple choice. So like this one's what's negative a, you would have to reflect across the x. Or the other half is if I say vertical shift down, you would have to type in minus d. So there's some good questions there. That's the only way I could help you really study for it. So if you don't study for it, that's on you. All right. But it is a quiz grade, and it's not going to be partner. It's not all going to be memory. So make sure you're studying, because it may be tomorrow, it may be on Wednesday, and one of those two. If you will, go ahead and open up your binder to 3.29. If you haven't already, pause the video. If some people are taking longer than others, you know who you are. And everybody looked at the same person. I wonder. All right, 329. So this is why this chapter is so random. This is another lesson that has nothing to do with what we've done in chapter 3, part 2, called arithmetic sequences. All right, arithmetic sequences is a sequence of numbers, which means a list of numbers that is formed by either adding or subtracting. You thought my handwriting was horrible on the board. It's horrible in regular life. All right, but it's a pattern that's determined by adding or subtracting the same value. So some new vocabulary you're going to have to be familiar with, and some new formulas, which is why you may want to use your notes on the assignment for today and tomorrow. Now these formulas are sad because they are not on your star chart. So again, it just comes out to memory on these, but at least you need to know how to interpret them. So when you see a sub 1 equals a number, it's telling you that is the first number or the first term in the sequence. Again, this will make sense in a second. The d value right here is not the d value that we talked about last week. That's separate. Is called the common difference. Make sure blanks are filled in. So common difference is a little deceiving because difference implies subtraction, but common difference is what you're adding or subtracting by. That's why this says plus or minus, like what are you adding or subtracting by? Now, in order to find the common difference, if you can't tell what the pattern is, which most of the time it's pretty obvious, you can take the second term and subtract the first to figure it out. And I'll break that down for you. So again, filling the blanks doesn't make sense until we practice it. Your assignment is going to look like a lot like what we're about to see. So pay close attention, take good notes so you can refer to them. With that, we have a sequence. Here is our first sequence. It's a pattern of numbers with ... because we have to continue the pattern. With that being said, I have to decide what the pattern is. Well, first things first, can you tell me what the first term is? Don't overthink it, people. If the first term literally listed is 1, that is my first term. So a sub 1 equals 1. All I'm doing is writing this right here. Now, the I now have to find the common difference. That's the d value. I have to figure out what the pattern is. What am I adding or subtracting by in my pattern? So you just have to be good at finding patterns and adding and subtracting. But if I'm trying to figure out how do I get from 1 to 5, 5 to 9, and 9 to 13, what's the pattern? Did you catch it? You're adding 4 every single time. And always make sure you're adding 4 every single time, because if it adds 4 the first 2 but not the third, then it's not an arithmetic sequence. So this one is adding 4. So my d value is adding 4. So I'm going to put plus 4 for the purpose of this, okay? And then so we practice writing this rule. It would be a sub 1 equals 1. I know it's redundant, but follow with me. And a sub n equals, and this is where it's not going to make sense, but we're going to write it, a sub n minus 1. Since our common difference is adding 4, we just put plus 4. Now this a sub n minus 1 is referring to the previous term. So it just means I can put the previous term, which means 1 plus 4, and I get 5. 5 plus 4 equals 9. 9 plus 4 equals 13. So it doesn't have a purpose other than just to tell you that you're adding 4. So there's your answer. I know, I lost you probably. Look at number 2. So let's do that again. First things first is I have to find my first term. Well, the first term literally listed is -5. So that's my first term. Now we have to find the common difference. Be careful with negatives because that's where it gets messy. Well, I'm trying to find my pattern from -5 to -8, -8 to -11, and -11 to -14. If you said 3 or adding 3, you are wrong because you're not adding 3, you're subtracting 3 because the negatives are getting larger. So the common difference would be -3 in this case. So be careful with negatives. Then I write the rule. So a sub 1 equals, which we found was -5. And then my formula, which is a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 minus 3 this time. That's how you write it. That's it. So again, the a sub n minus 1 just means previous term. So if I say -5 minus 3 is -8, -8 minus 3 is -11, and -11 minus 3 is -14. If you will, please pause the video, have them try number 3 by themselves, and please actually try. All right, if you pause the video, or now you're playing the video again, hopefully you got the same answer. Look at number 3 with me. So my pattern, if you noticed, was subtracting 2 every single time. And it was subtracting 2 because the numbers were getting smaller. So hopefully you listed your first term was 8. So a sub 1 equals 8. And then your common difference would be -2 because you're subtracting 2 each time. Who's 2 for 2? Now, who stopped there? Because if you did, you're wrong. Because you got to keep going. A sub 1 equals 8. And my formula would be a sub n equals a sub n minus 1, which is just verbatim for the previous term, minus 2. Who got that right? Who's lying? All right, number 7. If we look at number 7, so this is where, so that's part 1 of your assignment is finding the common difference and writing the formula. The second part of your assignment is, can you find the common difference and tell me what the next few numbers will be? So for instance, number 7, I have to find the pattern first. So 9 to 13, 13 to 17, and 17 to 21. What are you adding or subtracting by every single time? Well, you're adding by 4. So my common difference would be plus 4. Now, I have to now decide what the next 3 terms would be. So, continue the pattern. 21 plus 4 is 25. 25 plus 4 is 29. 29 plus 4 is 33. Not too bad, right? Negatives is where it gets messy, but look at number 8. If I see my pattern, I'm subtracting 3 here, subtracting 3 here, subtracting 3 here. My common difference is -3, and all I do is continue that pattern. So -4 minus 3 is -7. -7 minus 3 is -10. -10 minus 3 is -13. So the only way you mess those up is if you can't count. All right, number 9. Pause the video, give them a chance to work number 9 by themselves. Go. Now, if you came back to the video, that means you are done with number 9, and let's go over it. From -8 to -2, that is plus 6. -2 to 4 is plus 6. 4 to 10 is also plus 6. So my common difference is adding 6, which means to continue that pattern, 10 plus 6 is 16. 16 plus 6 is 22. 22 plus 6 is 28. Not too bad. So far, so good. If this is honestly going completely over your head, pay closer attention, or maybe rewind the video and watch this all over again. So keep paying attention, people. Now, the next part is, can you use the formula to find certain terms coming up? So for instance, this is why this formula is somewhat important, because you have to be able to take a problem like this and interpret it yourself. For instance, I know a sub 1 equals 7. That means the first term in my list is 7. A sub 1 equals 7. Now, then I have to know what this means. A sub n equals a sub n minus 1 minus 12. What this means, a sub n minus 1 just means take the previous term and subtract 12. Well, if I know my first term is 7, what do I do to find my second term? You subtract 12. So 7 minus 12 is -5. And again, if you're not sure, you can type it in your calculator, like I just did, to be honest. 7 minus 12 is -5. So a sub 2, which is my second term, would be -5. And then I would do -5 minus 12 to find my third term. So my third term is -17. And then if you notice, it's asking for my fourth term here. So a sub 4 would be -17 minus 12, which would be -29. And if I asked you for the 10th term, we would continue on until I get to the 10th. But since it's asking for the fourth term, my answer is -29. If I lost you, pay close attention. So if I look at number 11, a sub 1 equals -10. That means my first term is -10. It's kind of like building a table, I guess you can say. And then it's telling me here that I take my previous term and I add 3. So if a sub 1 equals -10, a sub 2 would be -10 plus 3, which would be -7. Then my third term would be -7 plus 3, which is -4. And I need to find my seventh term. So I have to find that over and over again. So I'm going to go all the way to my seventh term. -4 plus 3 is -1. -1 plus 3 is +2. 2 plus 3 is 5. And 5 plus 3 is 8. So my seventh term in the sequence would be 8. I want you to pause the video again. Y'all go try number 12. If you're back, that means you've done number 12. A sub 1 equals 17. And it's asking you to subtract 4 every single time. So to find the fifth term, I'm going to have to go do that a few times. 17 minus 4 is 13. 13 minus 4 is 9. 9 minus 4 is 5. And 5 minus 4 is 1. So my fifth term should have been 1. So far, so good. Again, if you feel like I'm going too fast, let me know. Now flip to the back. Yeah, just when you thought it was done. Now, let's talk about what would happen if I asked you for the 100th term, the 75th term, the 1,000th term, which is possible. I could torture you that way. But torture would be making you do this forever and ever until you get to the 1,000th term. So then comes our formula called the explicit formula. Don't ask me where it came from, but the name is weird. Anyway, the formula itself looks like this, where a sub n, which means the nth term, like what term are you looking for? The 1,000th, the millionth, whatever the case may be. A sub 1, which is your first term, plus or minus the d value, which is your common difference. And the reason why it's plus or minus is because are you adding or are you subtracting a number? And then parentheses n minus 1. So just have your notes out. Of course, I don't expect you to have that memorized. You just have to know how to use it. So as long as you know a sub 1 means the first term, your common difference is the d value. So look at number 1, okay? This is another part of your assignment, so make sure you're just listening carefully, following along in the notes. If I ask you for the 100th term, and here's my starting sequence, I need 2 pieces of information. I need my first term and I need my common difference. Well, my first term, which is my a sub 1, equals 5. Now my common difference is where my noggin's involved and I got to figure out what my pattern is. Well, from 5 to 2, I know I'm subtracting something, and 2 to -1, I know I'm subtracting something. So from 5 to 2, I'm subtracting 3. From 2 to -1, I'm subtracting 3. So my common difference is -3. Now, this is where I take my formula at the top and I'm going to copy it down. So a sub 1 is 5. And since I'm subtracting 3, I'm just going to put -3, parentheses, n minus 1. Now, this is how I use the formula to find the 100th term. Think of n as x, no different than x. So this is where we're just going to use, I'm going to show you 2 different ways, okay? The easiest way is just to type this in, but I'm going to replace n, or x, with 100. So I'm going to do 5 minus 3, parentheses, 100 minus 1, like that. And that, you hit enter. So if I were to subtract 3 100 times, I would get -292. So my 100th term is -292, and that is your answer. Lost ya? I thought so. Number 2. first thing I need two pieces of information. My first term, which is -9, and my common difference, which is what I'm adding or subtracting by. So from -9 to -3, that's adding 6. From -3 to 3, 6. From 3 to 9, 6. So my common difference is +6. So now we take our formula, which is at the top of your notes. My first term is -9. Since I'm adding 6, I'm going to put +6, parentheses n minus 1. And again, all I'm doing is n replacing it with 79, which is what it's asking for. So -9 plus 6, and then 79 minus 1. Literally like I wrote it. So you hit enter, and I've got my 79th term, which if I continued my list and tortured you 79 times, you would get 459. Okay, so pause the video. I want you to try number 3. If you're back, that means you've answered number 3, which means you should have found your first term as -30 and your common difference as adding 8, even though negatives were involved, but I was getting smaller negatives, so that's actually addition. So you should have written -30 plus 8, parentheses n minus 1, and all you do is type in -30 plus 8, parentheses 43 minus 1, because it's asking for the 43rd term. So then I got 306. Any questions there? All right. Now, the only tricky part about arithmetic is what if you end up with fractions or decimals too? So if you look at number 4, I have decimals involved. So I'd have to figure out, well, the easiest part is a sub 1 would be 2, but my common difference. I know I'm adding because my numbers are getting larger. So if you can't think off the top of your head what 2 to 5.5 would be, this is where that second term minus first term comes in handy. I would do 5.5 minus 2, the second term minus the first, and it tells me what I'm adding by, 3.5. So my common difference is plus 3.5. Then I just do my formula. So my first term is 2 plus 3.5, parentheses n minus 1. So I just type that in and hit enter. So my 55th term would be 191. Not too bad. All right, skip to number 6. Same idea. Again, there's decimals involved, and if you can't think off the top of your head what it is from 189.6 to 172.3, you take your second term, so 172.3 minus 189.6, and hit enter. And I'm subtracting 17.3. Because I know I'm subtracting is because the numbers are getting smaller. So my first term would be 189.6. I'm subtracting 17.3 and then n minus 1. So 189.6 minus 17.3, parentheses 33 minus 1. And so I would get -364. Now, if you did not get -364 on this one, or if you did not get the right answer on number 1, I can bet pretty good amount of money, if I was rich, to be able to tell you that the reason why you didn't is because you put negative here as opposed to a minus. So make sure you're careful there. It's minus, not a negative. It's not too bad. So it's not hard, but it's just new. So use your notes, especially on the formula here if you're not sure. Now, your assignment. Put your binder away if you don't think you need it. Don't get rowdy, people. Pay attention. So your assignment is going to be boom cards. So everybody's going to have their own Chromebook. Do not get up yet. Now, please know y'all's class is pretty big, so a few of you who do not have a calc or a Chromebook number assigned right now because of technology shutting down on me, go ask Coach Jeffcoat next door if they're using theirs, and please be nice about it, but then borrow theirs. Make sure you return them, though. Do not get up, people. We're not getting up. Okay, so you're going to get boom cards. There are 6 types of questions, okay? Now, I'm going to try to make it to where you'll see the same questions at the same time so you can work with your elbow partner, not any partner, just your elbow partner, through these questions. So first type of question is this, where it's asking you, is it arithmetic or not? So how you determine that is, are they adding and subtracting by the same number every single time? So like -2 to 5 is +7, 5 to 12 is +7, 12 to 19 is +7, 19 to 26 +7. So you would hit yes. And I don't want to hear nothing about I misclicked. I'm not hearing it. All right, the second type is you're gonna have to find the missing value. So you figure out the pattern and then of course type in the missing value. Again, I don't wanna hear I misclicked. The next type is finding the next 3 terms of your sequence. So you find the pattern, continue your pattern, type them in, okay? The next type of question is, can you just find the common difference? So what are you adding or subtracting by? So if this one I would be adding 2, this already has the plus, so don't put plus 2 again, just put 2. If it's minus, there should be a minus here. And so if it's a minus here, just put what you're subtracting by here. So like minus 2, don't put a minus again in there. Now, if it says plus, but it's supposed to be minus, then put a plus negative. So just watch out for those. All right. And then the next type is that new formula that we talked about. So your first term, this is the question that stumps people every single year. Your first term goes in this box. The second is your difference. What are you adding or subtracting by? So like this one would be negative 15 in this box and then plus 5 in the second box, okay? And then lastly is what the nth term would be. So that's the one where you would have to set up your own formula. First term plus or minus d in -1 and type it in your calculator. So you find the 20th term, unless you want to sit there and write out plus 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, or 8 actually, plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, 19 more times. So just type in what you would get there. Not too bad. All right, you're probably shorter on time than I anticipated, so do as much as you can on your own. I'll do my best to give you time tomorrow, but grab your Chromebooks, put them back carefully when you're done, and go. See you tomorrow.